Now entering Nerdist.com.
Hey, everybody. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Nick. That's right. Special guest host today. Guys, we have another terrific episode
Holy
for you.
shit, guys.
Strap in,
Guys,
because you're going to want to listen to every last drop
this
of
is
audio.
this is, from what I gather, a little bit longer episode, which is well due. It's awesome. Every episode we've done has been fun and awesome. This one's like we could have gone for longer had we had more studio time.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a fun.
It's one of those shows where I did not even realize how long we'd gone until it was done. And even then, this was a guy that I never assumed we would get him on the show, but I'm so happy he was able to do it.
Yeah, it's a great episode, great guest, super nice guy, super knowledgeable on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And he's down to come back whenever he's in town. So hopefully you guys enjoy it because we enjoyed it also. So
nothing else, we had a good time.
Yeah,
so take that.
Take that, and without further ado, I guess today we learn number 58 with Henry Rollins.
Today we learn. Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
Are we ready to go?
Ready to rock and roll.
Or are you introing or am I introing myself?
I like that. We'll keep that intro. That voice you hear, ladies and gentlemen, is none other than multi-hyphenated. I have a list of things here, but you've seen him on Sons of Anarchy. You've heard him in Black Flag, the Rollins Band. He's talented actor, journalist, spoken word artist, advocate for many great causes, the many talented multi-hyphenate Henry Rollins, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
No problem.
And once again, thank you for listening to another episode of Today We Learned. As usual, my name is Razzle.
And I'm Dan.
And so let's light this candle and we can just get to having some fun here.
Yeah.
Henry, as we mentioned, we like to start off each episode with the guests providing either a fun fact about themselves or something they learned recently of sorts. And I believe you have something that you said came to your mind.
Well, there's just something that was recently reinforced. That is a thing that you forget unless you're in it and kind of stuck. And usually when you become aware of it, you are stuck in it. And it takes a while to extricate yourself from it. I have found, I'm 53 years of age, which doesn't mean I'm mature, it just means I'm getting old. I have a very low threshold for hanging around with ridiculous people. and don't take that the wrong way. It's just that recently I was in a situation where I was with these people who were very, very nice.
Yeah.
It's just they're utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you have to take them seriously because you're working with them. And it can't go fast enough. Like the time is every moment is like a semester. Every second feels like a fiscal quarter being pulled out of your ear. It's like a silver dollar being pulled out of your eye socket. It's just so painful. And when you see people of different age groups, and they're all kind of baselining to the same thing, like the guy who's almost as old as I am can communicate with the girl who is his girlfriend, who could be his daughter, and they're both talking meaningfully about skateboards. And you're like, how many more hours?
Yeah.
14? And I was talking today with someone who also has this problem of occasionally being with these people and finding it so excruciating. And I would love to think that I'm not a grouchy, crotchety old man, but maybe I am. And I don't hate these people at all. Quite the opposite. They're very, very nice. It's just that it just becomes really kind of unendurable, where you have to kind of will yourself to a happy place and think of your Dinosaur Jr. records and easy access to coffee to make yourself happier.
Yeah, you can only smile and nod for so long before.
Well, sometimes there's just situations where the proximity does not allow you to tune out without being very rude and putting earplugs in your ears and playing with your iPod. And I will not do that. Like I wouldn't do that here during this.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Imagine how that would come off.
Yeah. It's, our best episode yet.
I know what you mean to an extent, because like I was in I'm all for accepting everybody and I get everything to an extent, but there are times like that where it's like it's so absurd to you at that moment where time just goes by slowly or whatever. And it's like, I was in New York not too long ago, and my buddy took me to a club, and I'm not a huge fan of clubs or anything like that, but I was there because I was visiting my buddy. And it's like, I used to be in a punk band, and I'm all for looking however you want and everything, but it was just, and I'm 32 and I'm not old or young by any means, but I was looking around, and it was just not only was like the club music, it was just too much of it sounded like Casio keyboards and those laser guns, which whatever, it's not my cup of tea, but I felt like I was in almost like one of those futuristic Blade movies, because like the haircuts I didn't get it. It's like, at some point it's like, look, I get like I'm not judgmental at all, but I found myself thinking, what do you guys do for work? Or, it was just, and it just, the night seemed to take forever to end when we were only there for like 2 hours, and it seemed way longer than that.
I find it for myself, I realize that I need to leave. Yeah. In that I'm not there to judge other people. I really don't want to do it. I really don't want to hurt anyone. Yeah. I don't want to judge anyone. I don't want to be mean. It's got no interest in that.
Exactly.
Fury and rage I can get to. Like if you start a fake war in some country and get a bunch of people killed, you have inspired my fury. But if you're just going to have a crazy sideways haircut and listen to crap music, you're really not hurting anyone. Yeah. And you're okay with me. Yeah. And if I can't hang, I'm not going to be the one who turns the music down. Exactly. Or says, what's up with that? I just find the exit door. Exactly. In that I know who's out of place. It's me. Yep. And that's cool. But what I've noticed and it could be an age thing, but when you are in a situation like that and you look around, these people start to look like, when you start to ask that question, what do you do for a living? Like every once in a while, there's a dog park at the Desmond Estates. It's like a street right off Mulholland. And everyone is there. They weigh like 8 pounds each. They're in all their running gear, jogging bras, and those skin-tight outfits. It's like 2 PM, and they got like 4 bottles of water, and they're really war gaming their walk. They're so into it, and they got a trainer to help. They're like 1 foot, and then another, and then another, and that's $45. And the first thing that occurs to me is, where is your job? But then I have to stop that. Because now I'm Archie Bunker. Yeah. Now I'm my dad. Yeah. And you know what? Maybe it's the guy's day off. Yeah. Maybe he's a genius inventor and he invented this thing that you're driving right now. Yeah. And he's earned a few bucks and he can take a walk with his dog anytime he wants. Why don't you shut up and have a nice day, Henry? Yeah. And so I have to continually go, no, I don't want to be that guy. And sometimes when the poor fellow is walking up to your car, at the intersection with his sign like, hey, I need some help. Sometimes there's that knee-jerk like, damn it, you might just be buying alcohol with that 25 cents I'm going to give you. Well, maybe the guy has an undiagnosed condition and alcohol is the only way he can figure out on a street level to keep the screaming voices in his head to shut up for 45 minutes. And he's going to go right to the liquor store because he's a guy in need, but he doesn't have what he needs. Yeah. And so I've noticed there's so many opportunities as you walk around day to day, just as a waking, thoughtful person, to take all these opportunities to not judge people. Yeah. And it is really hard sometimes. There's, like you said, there are so many opportunities that arise, especially in a city like Los Angeles, just where by its nature you're just constantly in your car driving around, meeting all manner of people, some of whom you would assume are lacking for judgment skills based on the decisions they're making in their motor vehicle. But it's, you need to having that skill, being able to separate yourself from the situation, being able to take a step back is an important one, but not as easy as it would seem talking about it now as it is in the moment. Yeah, and it has become very important to me to not be that guy, I don't want to be wagging my finger at people. I'm really not interested. Unless you're running some church and you're telling gay people they can't get married. Exactly. Then I'm wagging my finger, I'm wagging my arm, I'm wagging my lungs. You're going to get the full the full show.
It's like those inflatable things at like car dealerships.
Yeah. There are opportunities where you strike with Thor's hammer, but most of the time you should just shut up and let people boogie woogie, as they say.
I'd say it's a couple steps above talking about skateboards for 14 hours.
I just endured it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very nice. It's just
Of course.
It's just not my.
I know, you can't win them all.
It's not my jam.
Well, this is a nice segue for something I was reading about earlier. Some researchers at UC Berkeley, I believe, back in 2012, did an experiment that revealed that people of higher socioeconomic status are more likely to cut off motorists and pedestrians at a four-way stop.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, the reasoning was, the idea is that rich people have more financial resources, so they're less dependent on social mores and these social bonds for survival. Therefore, self-interest prevails, and they're more likely to break the rules. They did some follow-up experiments, some the questionnaires, things like that. They discovered they're also more likely to cheat to win a prize, take candy from children, and said they would pocket extra change handed to them rather than give it back if it was an error.
Yeah, I think there's a few things going to work there. None of it is all that admirable. Maybe on the biological, some of these people could be considered A people, alpha, alpha male, alpha female. And the reason they're in that Lexus cutting you off is because they elbowed a bunch of other people out of the way to become assistant director of the thing or whatever. Yeah. And I think some people, when they reach an economic status, there's a lot of cops don't bother you. People park your car. People fall over themselves at restaurants to pleasure you. And you have an institutionalized sense of entitlement. And so the road is yours. You can text if you want to. And you might be in a neighborhood where the cop goes, look, ma'am, please don't do that again. We have a school up the street. And you're like, okay. And then, of course, you go right back to it. Where the person living in a tougher part of America might get that ticket, get a real rattling. Yeah. And they might understand the backhand of society a bit more. And I've been all over the world, like 80 countries or more I've been to. Oh, wow. And I've seen immense poverty. I've seen some real tough situations. I'm not bragging or trying to impress you. Yeah. But the point I'm making is in some of the poorest, hardest places I've ever been is where I find the most generosity, gentleness towards the children, friendliness towards some weird guy sweating through his shirt holding a camera, me. Where you go into some other places, like maybe west of where we're sitting now, where everything is pretty nice, and you find some incredibly wonderful people, of course, but you can find some awfully stingy people.
And it doesn't help too. Like on those expensive cars, you buy them and you don't have a license plate for a good 3 months because of all the paperwork on those expensive cars. Like if you see, you drive around Los Angeles here and you look at Lexuses or BMWs or Mercedes, and I would say 9 times out of 10 they just have
half of them are just dealer
plates because they're, and that doesn't enforce driving the rules of the road any more than
right. Well, since the beginning of America, there's been, as Ferdinand Celine, the great anti-Semite, once said, funny guy though, the great French writer and anti-Semite, he said there has always been 2 distinct races of people on planet Earth. I'm paraphrasing, rich and poor, and that's the story of early America. And your big social reforms, like Roosevelt and Johnson, the Great Society with Lyndon Baines Johnson, those were trying to throw a monkey wrench into, I've got a lot, you've got none, I must be better than you, which is kind of what you hear from some of these right-wing people who hate Roosevelt, hate the New Deal, hate these things that keep me from giving you the most minimum wage I can. And they have this sense of, it is mine, and screw you. And that gets them into fender benders because they're texting and talking. Yeah. The rules just don't apply. And they have proof because the cops are often easier on them. Their cars don't have license plates for a large period of time. They go into restaurants where people fairly fall down and flagellate themselves in front of them. And they have an idea of other people who are not in their tribe to be other. And that leads to some really unwise, because every once in a while someone like that finds themselves in a real world street situation where someone gets too close and they flip off the wrong guy in traffic, and that guy follows them to that Starbucks and punches them in the face. And quite often someone like that has never been hit. They've never dealt with something that hits back. Yeah. And they get this awful awakening, which doesn't really wake them up. It just sinks them deeper into their sense of, well, I just better build a thicker fence, higher walls.
Drive a little faster.
You
mentioned early history a little bit there. You mentioned some presidents and stuff like that. Now, you started hosted the second season on H2 of 10 Things You Didn't Know About.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was reading through some of those, and a fact struck interest in me, and I tried to find some stuff on it on the internet, but I couldn't. So I was wondering if you could maybe expound on it. But it had to do with George Washington pretty much founded American espionage. Do you remember anything about that?
The Culper Ring. I was at the CIA, in the parking lot of the CIA. We asked, can we shoot in the lobby? No. Can we shoot that? No. Can we shoot that? No. You can't shoot anything but this one wall.
Oh, my God.
Well, they're nice, but...
Was it a black wall?
No, this is like the parking lot. They're like, can we shoot that tree? Good. Anyway, we were asking their historian about the Culper Ring, George Washington, Ben Franklin, who's also in on it. And they use everything from false flag operations to invisible ink, like really cool stuff. And I said, "This is a miniseries. This is a play. This is a great movie. This is Spielberg. This is some epic 2-hour and 50-minute monster movie."
Yeah.
And apparently,
it's on AMC.
Okay. Yes.
Heist movie type shit. There.
They've already storyboarded the thing, and it's some kind of miniseries.
It's a quick sidebar about that. It's a series on AMC called Turn, created by the guy Craig Silverstein, created Nikita. I was actually working on a very similar pilot based on the same book that he used to create this series, because it's really fascinating stuff.
It really is.
And I think they're entering their second season pretty soon, but it's really cool.
Because all this stuff really did happen. And the big takeaway to get you really interested in, as you know, the Revolutionary Army, the Army of Independence, had like 4 guys in the slingshots.
Yeah.
Britain had the mightiest navy in the world, basically surrounding, parked right off the east coast of America, and they had warm coats, food, and like real straight shooting guns, like real long rifles. You could, George Washington only got picked off by a great rifleman, but the guy chose not to shoot him. He didn't know who he was. Anyway, you have basically George Washington and his very starving crew. Valley Forge are eating bark. They needed innovation, and so they had to, they put out a false message. We're all going to, and so the British Army goes to wherever, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and they leave New York City. Washington's guys go in and torch it. And that's because they had some matches, they might have some kerosene, but they don't have like 5,000 men in warm winter coats. So Washington and his gang had to be the smarter, smaller army, similar to what American and coalition forces run into in door-to-door searches in Baghdad and now perhaps Syria, etc. You're fighting a bunch of guys who don't wear uniforms, who have no real affinity except for you have an American flag on your shoulder, so I need to kill you. And it's kind of hard to take out people like that because they're being sneaky. Yeah. So Washington's guys were very sneaky, and ultimately they won.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'd say their chief accomplishment was they intercepted a message that a high-ranking American officer was going to betray the U.S. Army, and that turned out to be Benedict Arnold. He was going to give Valley Forge West Point to Major John Andre from the British Army. So,
okay.
Yeah, so they sort of indirectly saved the country that way.
And you can learn all that this season on our show.
Nice. When does it air on?
That one, that was our American Revolution episode was a couple of weeks ago. This coming week is one of my favorites. It's our marijuana episode.
Nice.
Which is fascinating because hemp and marijuana in American history is full of contradiction, hypocrisy, great innovation, and mostly hypocrisy. Because, hemp was a mandatory grow for the early Americans. They needed sails, they needed rope, they needed string, clothes, everything. You had to grow it. If you didn't, you'd have to pay a tax. And you could also pay your taxes in hemp.
Oh, wow.
It was very valuable because, what can't you do with it? And these days in southeast Colorado, we visited the largest hemp farm in America.
Oh, wow.
All 6 acres.
Wow.
And that's the biggest hemp farm in America.
6 acres.
6 acres.
For now.
Yeah, you can throw a rock across it pretty much.
Yeah.
For now. But the guy's really cool. We met him, he's a young farmer, got it from his dad, and he grows hemp, which grows almost in front of you. Super hardy plant. You watch, you're like, wow, did it just shoot out of the ground a bit more? It's tough.
Yeah.
And you can do a ton of stuff with it. And he's making that no THC trichome, like that Charlotte's Web. the where Chris Christie wouldn't let the girl have the right marijuana product, the cannabis product, the poor little girl.
Yeah.
They moved her to Colorado. She eventually died. They were using Charlotte's Web. It's a version of cannabis with low THC. He's growing that with his hemp.
Oh, wow.
And he's growing pure trichome, and he's like, I don't know the extraction process, but he's going to sell it as medicine.
Oh, wow.
And so here's this farmer, now contributing to the medical world.
Yeah.
So, which is
amazing.
Kind of a revolution and a big shot in the kidney. It's a kidney punch to big pharma.
Yeah.
And believe me, they're not going to take that very well.
No way.
So the future of American marijuana or American cannabis is quite interesting. Because no state can really afford not to grow it now.
Yeah.
When you see the cash cow that it is.
Oh, I have an acquaintance whose aunt was a real estate agent. She sold houses in Colorado, and she wasn't doing too well for a while. Then once they legalized marijuana, she had the idea to start seeking out houses that would be beneficial and were set up for growing
home grow operations,
homegrown
stuff like
operations.
that.
And she started selling houses left and right to
Wow.
Or if the house
companies.
is bad, just level the house and farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we visited a place. I won't give the name just to give them some anonymity. It was about a building the size of almost a Walmart, all hydroponically grown marijuana, and a bunch of scientists running around. I thought a bunch of guys go, "Hey man, look at that weed." It's like, well, we have this 6 hours of light cycle, and the water switches out to this nitrogen oxygen mix, and then at night we do this light cycle, and then these plants move from this room to this room. It was astonishing. It took like 2 hours for the guy to walk us through,
Oh, wow.
and he's in a lab coat going ding ding ding, and he's
It's like real life Walter White.
Yeah, his life is weed.
Yeah.
He has his own strain, and the whole facility is hydroponic. They're building one 10 times the size down the road, and they're going to be using clones from the plants. The 150 plants a day get harvested. There's people in a room clipping. We watch them. Goes into their vehicles to their own dispensaries. We started the morning there. At 9 a.m., the line's around the block.
Oh, wow.
The elderly, young people, all kinds of people for all kinds of reasons are using cannabis.
Yeah.
The inside, every person there has used every product inside. They can tell you, are you a beginner? You don't want this too much? You want try that? I mean, it is such an operation, and they are making enough to buy the city block we're sitting in right now in like a day and a half. It is unbelievable.
What's unbelievable about that is that it's taken so long for the government to just realize they could make. I mean, tax it, and I mean it would be.
And Colorado is in hysterics laughing. The revenue stream.
Oh man!
Where even the most uptight states, like who knows, the Dakotas, Wyoming, they're going to have to just go. You know what? Smell the coffee or smell the weed.
Yeah.
Smell the profit.
Yeah.
The South, where you could grow that stuff like a foot an hour. Can you imagine in Louisiana? Or Mississippi, how well you could grow that stuff. Those states would be able to dig themselves out of America, secede, and
it'd be more
plant themselves in the water.
They're already essentially hydroponic states.
I mean, they rival the tech industry with the profit margins.
Exactly. And so I think in our lifetime, I think in the next decade, I have no crystal ball, but I bet a good 10 states will easily go. Oregon will go. California will go. New Mexico. Arizona or Texas, where you wouldn't think it would, I think they'll freakishly suddenly flip. They'll just see the dollars.
Yeah.
Even a guy like Rick Perry likes money.
Yeah.
And he'll be able to overcome his immense stupidity, and he'll be able to
quite the mountain.
Yeah. But he's not in for long. But I think America and that on that one topic, I think is going to evolve very rapidly in front of us.
Yeah. I'm excited for it. Now, one would say we're a fan of cheesy segues here. One would say that people who smoke marijuana would enjoy ice cream. I would say maybe, right? I don't know.
I don't know. I've smoked pot once in my life. It didn't make me want to do anything but wait it out. I hated it.
But anyways, we'll get into this. A little ice cream fun fact here. Prior to Black Flag, you were in a band called State of Alert, and during your tenure of State of Alert, you were a manager. From what I've read of a Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah.
Now, we got some fun facts about Haagen-Dazs ice cream here. Haagen-Dazs was established by a gentleman by the name of Reuben Mattis in the Bronx, New York, in 1961. Haagen-Dazs started with only 3 flavors, vanilla, chocolate, and coffee.
Nice.
And the company opened its first retail store in Brooklyn, New York on November 15th, 1976. Now, fun fact about the name Haagen-Dazs is it's Danish sounding, but it means nothing.
No,
Prior, it's completely
Yeah, it
fabricated.
was to make it sound like it was
High-end.
exotic European ice cream.
It was $1.35 a scoop. People would come in with their dates, and you see some high school kid with his date, and you want to say, dude, you might not. I go like, make sure you look at the board. And they would sometimes turn around. I go, thank you. Turn around and go to another ice cream place I won't name.
Yeah.
Where it was way cheaper, of course, less quality, but where a guy in 11th grade could afford that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he came into our place, and all of a sudden, his dollars aren't talking to us.
Yeah, and he originally, the gentleman Reuben, from what I remember reading, his family had another ice cream parlor, and they weren't able to compete with the other ice cream parlors around town, so Reuben had the idea of making like a higher end ice cream, which he branded with the Denmark sounding name, and it foreign marketing, as they call it, to upsell the product and
make it exotic.
Yeah. It's funny because reading here that in Danish they don't have any umlauts, yet there's one hanging out there over the A in Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah, it's complete BS.
Yeah.
But thankfully, the product is really good.
Oh yeah,
so good.
I appreciate that coffee was one of their original flavors, and not strawberry.
Okay, and just not to bang on, because it's not all that interesting to your listeners, I'm sure. But one of the reasons those are the initial flavors is they're the hardest to make. In that real vanilla ice cream, the way you can test an ice cream company is by their vanilla. It's one of the hardest flavors to make. And a lot of companies will use vanillin, which is artificial vanilla, and they'll pump it up with sugar. But real vanilla ice cream, like Haagen-Dazs, they use vanilla extract, which is it's a very expensive extract. And the Haagen-Dazs ice cream is kosher. It goes through a very rigorous process. It is stirred to cooling to ice cream consistency over a very long period of time. Ice cream is sold by volume, not by weight.
Really?
And so when you buy the cheap ice cream, you buy that big box of it, and it's like a beach ball. It flies out of your hand. Where you buy Ben and Jerry's, a very good product.
Yeah.
Or Haagen-Dazs is like a brick in your hand.
Yeah, it's dense.
Because it's stirred slower, which lets more air escape. And it gives the ice cream a more smoother consistency. And so when you buy this product, you're actually getting more ice cream for your dollar. So where it might be expensive at the store compared to another brand, you are actually getting more ice cream, and you're getting a product where the actual ingredients, like the chocolate and the coffee and the vanilla, is like real coffee, real vanilla, real chocolate, which is not cheap. And that's one of the reasons I enjoyed working there, because we were not selling crap.
Yeah.
And I worked at a pet shop where there's different levels of animals you can buy.
Yeah.
Like there's the good vendor with the healthy fish and the healthy rodents and all. And then there's the guy who sells you like the ones with the scab on its leg, and you're like, we would buy those because our pet shop was cheap. And we have these animals that were not healthy, didn't look good. And you're like, wow, we're selling B grade, C grade animals. And it's a cruel business, the pet shop. But I was a kid. I worked, it was up the street from me. But I was kind of selling less than good things to good people. And as I became a young man, I couldn't do it anymore. So I sought other work. And working at Haagen-Dazs, we were selling this great product. And the reason I became head manager is I was the guy who figured out, if you're going to sell a product which costs a minimum wage hour of work for 2 scoops, that place better look like you could do surgery on any flat surface. And I would go and routinely clean.
Oh, wow.
And I became a shift manager, then the store manager. Recently, across the street at Mr. Music Head, I had Sam frame my last Haagen-Dazs T-shirt, and now sits in my office framed, because I never want to forget where I came from.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really neat. I didn't know that about ice cream, and that makes sense because you see those like big 5, those big gallon or the 5-gallon things or whatever. And
For 48 cents.
Exactly.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
You mentioned the cheaper alternative to Haagen-Dazs, but if you can't afford Haagen-Dazs, there's an even cheaper alternative. All you need is bananas. You can make ice cream, completely vegan ice cream, dairy-free, just using bananas. You take bananas, you freeze them for a couple hours or overnight. Then you take them out, put them in a blender, and then they're going to look like a little crumbled and smashed. If you keep blending, eventually it turns into this sort of like creamy ice cream-like.
Puree.
Yeah. So it's a nice little substitute. But this was all just an elaborate segue to get to our next topic, which is bananas. Which
I think about them. You think about them.
Yeah.
America thinks about
Your
them.
questions answered. So according to ChiquitaBananas.com, your one-stop shop for all things banana-related, bananas do not grow on trees. They're actually a giant herb. And the word itself comes from an Arab word, banan, meaning finger. Or banan, I'm sure, is the closer pronunciation. An individual banana is referred to as a finger, and a bunch of bananas, not a bunch at all, it's called a hand.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Say I was to give you a banana right now.
Go on.
And you're hungry for
All
a banana.
Oh, I think I know where this is going.
Okay, well, hold your tongue.
Yeah.
No, really, hold it. Okay. How would you open it?
I would peel from the top.
Right where the stem is. You
Yes.
peel it back, put your thumb in, crack it back. Okay.
Yes.
You know, how do gorillas open bananas?
Don't they go along the seam, or just they snap it in half?
They have been observed pinching the bottom, popping it open, and easily peeling back, which is the way I do it now.
Oh man, I need to watch more. I need to watch more gorillas in action. Improve my fruit game.
Learned that on the internet. They said,
awesome.
take a tip from a gorilla.
Exactly.
Well, okay.
Yeah. And are you getting better banana-based results?
I'm getting immediate access to that banana.
The ease of consuming bananas.
Tear down this firewall.
Get in my stomach. Well, speaking of animals, you also hosted Animal Underworld on Nat Geo Wild.
Yes.
And I was doing some. I was looking at some of the stuff there, and you were holding a bunch of snakes. So I have a little snake fact here that I didn't understand, because I always see snakes with nostrils in cartoons and even in pictures and all that. But apparently, snakes smell using their forked tongues, and they use their forked tongues to collect the airborne particles, and then they pass them through their vomeronasal organ and their mouth for examination, and that's how they can That's why they keep their tongues constantly wagging, because they.
The more you agitate them,
Yeah.
the more they come out. Like when they wake up, all of a sudden this tongue is out. Who's that?
Yeah.
Are you friend? Are you foe? Are you food? Are you a mate? Are you a rival? They're checking you out. And some snakes, rattlesnakes especially, when they're getting real agitated, they'll just stick their tongue out and let it sit. And they'll pull it in real slow, because they just want to figure you out.
That's wild. That's so fascinating to me. And because they're forked, they can go in like multi-directional to see their.
Unbelievably evolved animals for something that Mother Nature's basically phasing out.
Yeah. That's wild. So I read that and thought.
What was
might enjoy that.
when you were filming the show? Was there any animals you were just like, I don't want anything to do with this?
Well, we shot one scene with a buddy of mine named Tim. Tim injects himself with wet black mamba venom.
Oh my god.
Dendrospis polylepis, the black mamba. And I have handled green mambas before, but never a black. That is just, for me, a nightmare. That is a waking nightmare with scales. And I'd never been around one where we're going to actually pull it out. The hottest snake I'd ever been around per drop toxicity would probably be a taipan. And we pulled one out of an enclosure in Florida, but he was kind of rather cool. So he wasn't all that active, but we had him outside, me and this handler. And by the time we were walking him back, he was getting room temperature and he's getting a little lively. I'm like, man, let's make haste, because that's a bad bite. That'll stop you.
Yeah.
But the black mamba is fast and smart and instinctively aggressive, and will bite you more than once. In fact, there's reports of them biting everyone in the room. They'll bite anything that moves.
Oh my god.
And one bite will, you'll never buy pizza again. And so Tim says, okay, you get the back end, I'll get the front end. So we get the back end of the black mamba is like 8 feet of thrashing anger. I'm having to pull him out as he is regulating a sliding glass door against the snake's neck, so the snake is pulling out slowly but can't turn around and get out. So he's riding the glass door, and I basically have my hands on the snake. Well, I'm doing the door. I got one hand on the snake, and I'm riding the door with my fingers, sliding glass door. And then he's getting ready to grab the head. And we did it. But the thing is like thrashing like you with a whip. And the thing is crazy. And I'm sitting there with this thing smacking me, the tail smacking me. It was all on film. You can watch this. And it was one mad moment for me because it's a snake I've been studying since like 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
And there I actually have a handful of it. Thankfully, not the business end. That's Tim's great expertise. And he extracted some venom. He milked the snake. We put it back in barely. You kind of immediately throw it in, slam the door shut. He goes right back to the door, tries to get out. And he injected, he syringed up whatever the amount was, basically like a drop or so, which would kill the 3 of us.
Oh, wow.
And he injected it, and we just sat there and watched him. We're like, did that just happen? He starts sweating. The wound, the injection point swells up. The swelling goes away. The sweat dries up. And his kids and his wife came over. Hey, honey, how you doing? And he was completely normal.
Oh, my God.
And I said, that was the most amazing thing because this venom, I'm not kidding, it will kill you.
Yeah.
Like if you did that right now, you'd be out in a couple of minutes and maybe a heart attack or collapsed lungs inside of 5.
Oh, my
Wow.
goodness.
You would not, without treatment, you would not survive.
So
Now,
is Tim a superhero, or does he built up a resistance over
He's
time?
built up a resistance. And there's another famous herpetologist, what's his last name? Haas. Bill Haas, Haas. He did it in the 50s and 60s. I think he's still around. He might have passed away. But basically, Tim is doing that. And so that Animal Underground show allowed me to go to some pretty interesting places, hang out with some really awesome animals, and learn quite a bit. I got to eat rats in India.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, they're pretty tasty.
What were you hesitant to eat rats? Like how?
No.
No.
Nah, it's all right.
Was there? What was the?
They're free-range rats,
Oh, good. From the Whole Foods.
grain-fed. Well, there are rats caught in your rice patties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's literally grain-fed.
What was the most eye-opening of that during your travels with Animal Underground? Was there one animal or one place that just surprised you the most that you weren't maybe necessarily prepared to take in about a specific animal, or things that you just fascinated you about?
Well, there's nothing that surprised me in that we were in Vietnam and India, both places I've spent quite a bit of time in before. I'm not an expert. I've just shown up there a lot.
Here again.
And eating rats, it just, I don't know, it's just meat. So
Yeah.
that didn't trip me out. It was a little strange, be holding a rat body up to your face and basically just kind of gnawing at it. But, it was cool. There's one mad moment in southern Florida where with some guys who wrestle alligators. They're basically adrenaline junkies. And there's this one big has that had gone into deep water, and they're trying to find it. And there's like one guy with a stick trying to find him. I'm standing next to a guy who's has his jeans rolled, kind of a little rolled up. And he's standing in the water kind of waiting for his boss to kind of see what's going to happen. And all of a sudden the water moves, and the alligator had gone for him. And this guy, who's he's a big guy, he moves like he has rockets, a rocket belt, and he flies out of the water screaming in this high-pitched scream. The alligator had basically gone for his leg, ripped the jean, and cut him open. And he barely... the alligator, water was muddy. The alligator just missed, that's all.
Oh, wow.
The alligator kind of grazed him. And it was so close. The guy was bleeding.
Yeah.
The pants were torn. It was real. And the guy, and this is what they do. And like a minute later, all his friends were like, yeah, that was close. Hey, that's funny. The thing weighs like 1,200 pounds. Yeah. And if it got a hold of him, it easily could have snapped the leg.
Yeah.
And that was one of those moments where did you get that on film? Oh, good. Because that was real.
Yeah.
Can we reset to 1, please? Take that again.
Yeah, that was incredible. And we got it. But thankfully, it was a wide shot, and we got the whole thing.
Oh, my
wow.
goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad he got away with his leg as well. That is...
That's
would be
wild.
something less enthused about getting on film.
Yeah. That's wild. What? So you've eaten rat. Is that the weirdest animal you've probably eaten in your travels? Or
Yeah. That's the one I never thought I'd eat. They're eaten quite often. And in parts of the world, it's a protein source.
Yeah.
And they breed prodigiously. They live off pretty much anything.
Yeah.
And if you had to survive in the wild and they were accessible, I would recommend you get a sharpened stick or whatever and you go get yourself some rats because you will live... the liver and the meat is good for you.
Yeah.
And it was quite tasty. Tasted just like the squirrel I had to eat in Nashville, North Carolina a few weeks later. I ate only one time in my life I ate snake. The little beating heart of an Asian rat snake and the meat, which was incredibly bad tasting and stringy. But I ate it just to, have checked that out.
Exactly.
But I think those are the two most exotic animals I've ever eaten to my knowledge. I mean, I've been in parts of Africa where you get served something and you're not exactly sure. It's probably goat.
You don't want to ask.
But you're never quite sure. I'm sure it was goat, but you don't know for sure.
Yeah, it was like a good friend of mine. She spent a semester studying abroad in province of China, and every day, like every week, she and her friends would go to this local restaurant and they'd get this one spicy chicken dish that they loved. Oh, they ate it all the time. At the end of the semester, they finally took their professor with them. They're like, hey, come with us to dinner. So you have to try this. Our favorite dish is spicy chicken. He's like, oh, that's not chicken. That's baby rabbit. And that's less of a shock, but it just, if you're expecting something, if you've been accustomed to like, oh, I know what this is, it's such a system shock to find out it's been something different the whole time.
That's one of the things we explored doing that Animal Underworld series, was the idea of animals as food. Where in America, there are people who enjoy horse. It's exotic meat. It is, I think it was recently made legal, but for years it was illegal. Yet, there is a horse meat mafia in America. There's a complete black market for it.
Oh, wow.
Because in other parts of the world, it is very sought after.
Yeah.
And it is an acceptable
Like in
animal
Iceland.
to kill and harvest for meat. And it's just the perception of a horse for a lot of people, like, you're going to kill that?
Yeah.
Secretariat?
Well, this beautiful animal. Cows are beautiful. I mean, I think they're gorgeous animals.
Cars are very,
Longhorns are magnificent,
man.
majestic creatures. They're also
muscle on
really
them, too.
good beef.
Yeah.
And so people will buffalo. A more majestic animal
just
you'd be
the
hard-pressed to
main-
find. But you can go to Trader Joe's right now and get that buffalo jerky. Go get that bison jerky. And so why would a horse be any different? It's just a different perception. And so we hung out with a guy who spies on horse slaughter farms and has them shut down. He's like this interesting guy named Kudo. You can look him up. He's quite the Avenger. But in other parts of the world, horse is just what's for dinner.
Yeah.
Monkey, bear, just snake. All kinds of things are for food.
One time in 7th grade, I had aardvark. And it was,
Wow.
I remember it was pretty good.
Yeah, I've had whale in Japan and in Iceland, so it's just different parts of the world. Just
I've had
horse as well as big in Iceland.
When I lived in Chicago, they have a big event called Taste of Chicago every summer, and I had Cajun crocodile, and that was pretty good. It was really delicious.
Yeah, I remember there was a market near where I used to live in Somerville, Massachusetts, that if you go in there, you could routinely buy everything from lion meat, viper, just all sorts of exotic, very expensive, but like very interesting meats. We had we cooked up kangaroo and elk one day as like a special exotic barbecue.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think it's in Johannesburg or Cape Town. There's a restaurant called Carnivore, and like kind of everything's on the menu. And there's a place I went to in Hanoi a few years ago, another restaurant where it looks like a zoo, theme park, turtles, crocodiles, look at all the snakes, like all kinds of snakes, cobras, rat snakes.
Oh, wow.
And look at the birds. That's the menu. Point at it and be willing to pay.
Yeah.
And they will kill it and cook it for you. Soft-shelled turtle, cobras, rat snakes, crocodilians. It's all this petting zoo that you're at is also the menu.
Wow.
That's where I ate the snake.
That's neat.
Actually, I found the most sickly kind of like take me out rat snake I could find. Like him. And
One episode of The Simpsons where they built a steakhouse in town. Well, on the other end of the spectrum, I know recently to promote The Walking Dead in London, they came out with these burgers that were designed to taste like human flesh.
how do you get a chef to be able to articulate?
Well, here's what they did. Ed, that's what we're asking as well. Like, do we need to have a talk with this guy? But no, they researched accounts of cannibalism, stuff that people had written about before, and one came from this explorer William Seabrook, who ate human flesh from a hospital intern at the Sorbonne. He ate it and said it was good. It was like good, fully developed veal, not young but not yet beef. It was very definitely like that, and was not like any other meat I have ever tasted.
Wow.
And that was confirmed, that account was confirmed a little bit by this Japanese cannibal, Issei Sagawa, who was interviewed in 2010 by Vice, and in the 1993 film Alive. and about the Uruguayan rugby team that survived a plane crash in the Andes. They had to eat some of their team members, who they described it as like veal, but pinker than beef. So the burgers themselves don't contain any human meat, but they are, I think, a blend of pork and veal with bacon ketchup on a sesame brioche bun.
Hey, line one up
Yeah,
for me
right?
now. I've smelled people burning, but I've never, I don't want to eat anybody.
No, exactly. Well, with that mic drop.
I wouldn't want to. But I mean, I guess like eating rat if you're hungry and starving, or like that,
Oh, if it's just if you're starving and living.
Exactly. It's like that. What was it? The soccer team that crashed and the Andes
rugby
or
team.
You gotta do what you gotta do. But
Apparently, from the book I read that book in like 5th grade or something. Whatever. They would cut strips off these poor souls and let them dry in the sun, and they're basically just kind of eating it as kind of like sun-dried jerky.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Basically just trying to get it down your neck
As
and try and
fast as-
forget what you're eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, a long time ago, a guy I knew, real tough street kid. He is now a multimillionaire IT guy.
Oh, wow.
But his beginnings were kind of rough. And he told me how to eat dog food.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, why am I learning this? And he said, you get the dog food out of the can, you put it on a piece of Wonder Bread, and you make it into a ball. You squeeze it into the tightest ball you can and eat it like an apple. Like in the least bites possible, with less chewing as possible, and the bread kind of keeps you from the meat part.
Okay.
So you just kind of taste the bread and just wash it down with a lot of water. Just get it done.
Oh, man.
Because the meat's already chopped up.
Yeah.
And it's not bad for you. It's just a bunch of, veins.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. But I said, you did that? He's like, laughed at me like, yeah, are you kidding? We all did. And like, he was a sort of really tough street punk kid.
Yeah.
And now he lives somewhere in Orange County, and he can have your legs broken.
With Fancy Feast.
Yeah, but now he can afford the good stuff.
Now he's got the silver
the
dome
crystal bell.
shapes covering the balls of dog food.
But that was a hell of a thing he said to me. That was 1981. He told me that right down the street from here.
Yeah, it's like, here, let me give you a hot tip.
Here's a life hack for you.
I saw my future in Black Flag. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Me in a fist full of Alpo.
Can we pick up some Wonder Bread just real quick? Oh, man.
That's funny. Here's a little, every now and then we'll have like word facts, and this is a word fact sent by listener Alex Miller. It's about auto-antonyms. And basically an auto-antonym it's a word with a homograph, another word of the same spelling, which is also an antonym, a word with an opposite meaning. It is a word with multiple meanings, one of which is defined as the reverse of the other meaning, such as off. Off can mean something that is not operating, or it can mean to start happening in an excited way, like the alarm went off. Or you have inflammable, which means non-burnable, but it also in some regions is considered to be flammable. It's words with double meanings where both the two meanings are opposite of each other.
I understand. That's fascinating.
I like the one they gave to dust, which cleaning your house, dusting your house, or you can dust a cake with powdered sugar.
Or this one, speaking of Black Flag, refrain means both like to stop action,
right?
But it also is the repetitive chorus of songs.
That's right. That old refrain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting the dusting one, because if you're going to dust your house, what are you bringing in dust?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay. That's a clean surface.
Yeah.
Let's take care of that.
You'd assume they'd get like a little prefix like undust or something.
Yeah.
But no.
So
thanks,
that's
English language.
those words are called auto-antonyms.
So thanks,
can,
Alex.
Can you come up with an auto antonym?
Oh gosh, I was thinking.
Yeah, it's not so easy.
It's not easy, but when you read them, like on Wikipedia, there was a list of them. It's like, holy shit! You take them for granted because the English language has so many different. I don't know.
English.
It's such a weird language.
I'm sure you've had this conversation before where you're speaking to someone where English is one of their languages.
Yeah.
And they say, well, I'm French and we have this saying and I don't know how to say it in English. And they'll say something, they'll try and articulate it in English. And even when they articulate it in English, it sounds really wonderful. You're like, wow, I'd love to. That's so cool. Even in this kind of English, well, they're trying to articulate this other thing using this other language. Even then, it's really nice. But there's this girl who used to write me. Instead of saying I miss you. She would write in French, basically, you are apart from me. Like, I'm aware that you're not here.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm feeling that, which is more poetic. I miss you.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's
that's
really
more-
beautiful. And it makes you really wish that you knew some other languages, like to be able to read Camus in French or Dostoevsky in his native Russian. English is not that beautiful all the time. However, English is pretty amazing. And it's not dead yet, no matter how many people who text, where are you, trying to kill it. I mean, Mark Twain, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln are all spinning in their graves for how we treat English.
Yeah.
And if you read some speeches, like Lincoln, tremendous writer, his sentences are just astonishing in their construction, and their balance.
And it's almost similar, like, because he was a lawyer and studied law prior, whereas like a lot of the great comedians are former lawyers as well, because the wordsmiths that
words
they are,
matter. They know that words matter.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you read older speeches or hear presidents speak or Malcolm X, people who can really do the oratory. That English isn't dead. That we don't use it. It's like we don't use all of our brain. People barely scratch the dictionary. And I think the internet and texting and all of that, which I have no problem with, I use it all the time. We're kind of leaving English alone. And English is like this hot date who wants to get down with you. And you're not even asking it out on the dance floor. You're kind of going like, would you like a drink? Where it really wants to rock you. And you're not even taking the dance card. I mean, English is amazing. You pick up the dictionary, you see what's available. It's a hell of a
Every time
thing.
I hear new words that are like, oh, that's weird, and then you look it up and it means something that you use a simpler, easier word for, and it's like, oh wow, I'm going to start using that word.
I looked up one last night. I heard it on a show, and it basically means being as concise as possible. And I wish I had it in my mind right now. It's beautiful. Hit your thesaurus.
Yeah, right.
Is that show where James Spader is that crazy spy
The Blacklist?
fellow? Yeah, it was like episode 5 or 6. I watched that in my kitchen last night. And something Quent, Quent, I think is the last letters in the word.
Oh, wow.
Brilliquent, I think it was.
Brilliquent?
Yeah, try that. Or
Breviloquent?
Yes, because it's basically brevity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Breviloquent. That's what it was. Bervil.
Yep, marked by brevity of speech.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
How nice is that?
Yeah.
And he says to that hot-headed, young, kind of go-getter CIA guy, like, be as breviloquent as you can. And I was like, oh!
Yeah.
And I hit pause, and I looked it up, because anytime there's a word I don't know, I usually, like I'm reading a book, I have a notepad out.
Absolutely.
I take notes. I always write down that word.
Yeah.
And I go right to it, because I'm always trying to add to my own glossary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also you want to know what the author's trying to say there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like those words are just they sound. It's almost like it's like if you're in a duel or something like that, and the instead of just pulling out a normal sword or a blade, they pull out like something that's even
Scimitar.
more. Like you don't even want to fight them. You just want to look at that new thing that it means the same. It's a sword, but it's got angles and flair, and it's like, oh wow, it's like breviloquent is a way it's just a way
awesome.
cooler word than be as concise or brief.
If you ever get a chance, watch the William Buckley Gore Vidal debates. You can watch them on YouTube.
Yeah.
Those are two guys. One I agree with pretty much wholeheartedly. The other one I disagree with pretty much up and down. Both brilliant men.
Yeah.
And love to debate. And they had a very formidable person sitting across from them. Like they were both amazing swordsmen with English and their thought. They're both, opposite of the spectrum, but they're very articulate and sure of themselves and able to illustrate their point. And you hear these two guys, it's like Bruce Lee fighting himself. You're like, uh-oh, this is going to be amazing. And the two of them, they kick each other's asses, and they both kind of equal out. But it was so impressive.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm not a Buckley fan, but I admire his mind.
Yeah.
And man, he met his match with Gore Vidal, and Gore Vidal met his match with Buckley. They're both fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
Because they're both smiling. They kind of respect each other.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the best when, two intelligent people are in a debate and they're like combating each other equally. Where they disagree, but the words they're using and the ideas and the justification behind it, is so eloquently put. It's like, oh wow, like it's such a It's like fireworks going off that you just want to watch and consume.
Yeah, it's getting cut up by a scalpel. It's like, wow, check you guys out. Yeah, I love stuff like that because I have nothing. I have no traction in a world like that.
Yeah.
Like if I would lose any debate on any topic.
Yeah.
Like I would be against pedophilia and lose to the pro-pedophilia guy just because I am just not fast on my feet like that. I can't find the words, whack them into a sentence and get them out.
Well, he made a good argument. What can I say?
My only debate would be like, but it's wrong, and I want to watch them get hung in hanging gardens.
Right.
When it comes to pedophilia, my brain instantly turns to, I have nephews, and if anything happens to them, I will go into rage.
Yeah, I'm against the death penalty because I just don't think we're the greatest country in the world and be having these ritualized killings. Yet, when you read about this, here's what this guy did.
Yeah.
Or you see one of those crime shows, like here's the guy who killed this poor girl, and like he really did do it. He copped to it, took him to the body, and like she was 9.
Yeah,
you did that.
Yeah.
Like the parents are destroyed. The family is completely ruined. Everyone who knew the kid, they're just in hell, and he's going to go do a life sentence. Part of me wants to just go, you know what? I got this. Just get the dumpster ready. I'll put him in it for you.
Yeah. And
you want to just kind of mete that out very quickly. Yet you have to go like, well, I'm against the death penalty, but there's these moments where that Darwinian kind of street justice thing kicks in. You're like, you know what? This guy's a waste of food.
Yeah.
And I don't like myself when I think that way, but I will not deny thinking that way now and then.
You just need to think like Batman. Hunt them down, deliver justice, but don't take a life.
But it's so tough, especially like I'm generally against the death penalty also, but when it comes to like pedophilias like that, it's really tough to not want to, because they, especially, they ruin a small child's life.
Yeah.
And it's, and it's really hard, like, to not just want to be like, wow, you prevented someone from living their life the way they should. Yeah.
Yeah, and it comes down, the thing that bugs me the most is how much a year to keep you alive?
Yeah.
60 grand? 70? Really? Why don't we give that to the kid?
Yeah.
And get that kid some therapy, some medication, and a quiet place to learn.
Yeah.
Why are we keeping you alive, pal?
Yeah.
But the part of me that wants to be out in the world, in other countries, as I like to go, I'd like to be able to say, no, we don't do that because we have lost our gills on our necks and our twitching primordial tails. Yet, every once in a while, my gills come up and my tail grows out.
Yeah. We were talking about words and, vocabulary and stuff like that. And a lot of that is used in voiceovers. And you also... Henry, are a sought-after voiceover artist. You've done
Legend of Korra this past season.
You've done multiple Batman cartoons. You've done
Green Lantern,
Green Lantern,
Nights.
Absolutely.
And come in now to the Infinity Limited Engagement Spring Event for good prices on our entire line of luxury vehicles.
Yes.
Infinity.
Yes.
Inspired performance. That's also me.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Free plug for a great car.
Yeah, absolutely. Great car.
They are.
Great commercial.
They're really amazing vehicles, actually. They are the future.
You recently voiced Kilowog on Green Lantern Emerald Knights.
Yep.
And a couple of fun facts about the Green Lantern-ish. Martin Nodell was an American cartoonist and commercial artist, and he is best known for creating the original Golden Age superhero Green Lantern. Now, fun fact about him, Martin Nodell also was the very first artist to create the original Pillsbury Doughboy. The Pillsbury Doughboy was created by a gentleman by the name of Rudy Purz, copywriter for Pillsbury's longtime advertising agency, Leo Burnett. And he was sitting in his kitchen in the spring of 1965, and he was looking at the dough that he was trying to create up a campaign for, and he decided to create the Pillsbury Doughboy, and he ended up having Martin draw the original Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah, he was first brought to life using stop-motion animation with clay figures.
Yeah.
Wow.
The more you know.
What's your favorite out of all your voiceovers? What's your favorite because Kilowog is it's not just your voice like with the commercials or whatever. It's Henry Rollins doing vocalizing, but Kilowog it was a slight you changed it, you added a character to it. What's your is there one that you distinctively remember being the most that was the most fun to create?
Well, all those ones that you mentioned, it's the same woman who's producing. Her name is Andrea Romano.
Oh, so
and
good.
And in this town, she is a big damn deal, and she is so talented. If you do voiceover in L.A. and you do cartoons, you know Andrea. And if you've done more than one job, there's a very good chance you've worked with Andrea. She is fantastic. And it's she's just one of my favorite people. Yeah. And I was at her house a few months ago when we wrapped Korra. She had a wrap party. And I said, how many years have you and I been working together? We both had to stop and think. It's like 16.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
17 years, like 95, 96, something like that. She put me in Batman and Green Lantern. Teen Titans, and on and on and on. And she gave me the Kilowog, and she put me in Korra as Zahir. One of my favorite characters I've ever done was Zahir, because he's smart. He's a crazy anarchist revolutionary. I can't disagree with everything he said. I don't like his tactics, but he has some wild ideas. And so I love the writing, and I love the fact that he's like this very centered, very capable badass. And I'm kind of semi on board with him. I usually don't side with the bad guy. Yeah. Anyway, I enjoyed that. But on a day-to-day, one of my favorite jobs was a thing I did for many years called UFC Primetime. And it was three 30-minute episodes, I think, or 3 60-minute episodes, getting you up to the big heavyweight, main fight. And you get into the fighter's families, the rivalry, the whole thing. And I was the voice of that show until UFC kind of stopped doing the show late last year.
Okay.
And I really miss it. I loved the copy. I liked how my voice sat in it. I liked the show.
Yeah.
I liked my producer, Jason, smart guy, good guy. And I just enjoyed every year, hey, we're doing more. But currently, the thing I've enjoyed more as far as commercial work, besides the cartoons, because Andrea is such a joy to work with, is Infinity, who I've been doing for 4 years now, because I believe in the product. The cars are crazy good.
Great cars.
Like, I drive one.
Yeah.
And if everyone had one, I'm sure there'd be less accidents. They're so precise.
Yeah.
And they're so safety first. I mean, I don't work... I'm not trying to sell you a car.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
just saying I like being with a company where I use one.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I work with them because it is a high-quality product. I like the writing. I like the way our ads look. I think we have way smarter-looking ads than our competition. And it's just good to be – it's wonderful when you're asked back.
Yeah.
So I'm not used to that. I'm used to, like, signing to a record company, two albums, and then the rest is an option. After those 2 albums, I'm gone.
Yeah.
They drop me like a bad habit. And so I'm used to bye-bye.
Yeah.
And so when they say, oh, come back, I'm like, me? And I feel so happy when I get asked back or I don't get canned because I'm so used to like, okay, that's enough, thank you.
Yeah.
Or I'm on a TV show and like, your character has to die. Okay.
Yeah, my brother, I was talking to my brother on the way here, and he's like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to record with Henry Rollins. And he's like, oh, I just watched this season on Sons of Anarchy, and he was a dick. I'm like, he's like, oh, he was so good in that show. It's like, I hated him so much.
Well, that was well, then I did my job.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you definitely did your job on that show. Oh, my God.
Well, in a way, he was a very easy character in that he believes the party line, which is not my party line. And he just believes that white America is a better place. So anything that's brown or not white has to go, which is pretty easy in that if that's your day, just literally point and shoot.
Yeah.
The only thing that throws a monkey wrench into the kind of this linear idea of the guy is he's a good dad. And so how do you reconcile this analog, I love my kids, where I just shot 2 women in the head and went and had lunch where it didn't even faze me. How do you reconcile the two? Therein lies the fun thing for an actor, your conflict.
Yeah.
How you walk around with both things at once. And that was my challenge on that show. So I knew I eventually had to show this dad side. And Katie Seagal's character lets me live because she hears me on the phone with my son. And that's how I wriggle free of a headshot. And eventually justice catches up to me. But it was a really fun, we shot the show right down here.
Okay.
And it was usually on a show, and I won't ever give up a name, in a show or in a film, there's usually someone in the cast who you want to avoid.
Yeah.
Diva, needy, just whatever. You're like, get away. Or they're just mean. And you can be mean to me and disrespectful for me on set. I will never return it. In that I get it done. You can be a jerk to me. I'll keep saying, hey, good morning.
Yeah.
I just get along. But I won't enjoy it, but I will get along with you. You'll never know that you really make me mad. And so I go onto the set of Sons of Anarchy thinking, well, who's it going to be? Because it's always somebody. With a cast this size, it's going to be a jerk. There's just too many people on this set not to have one guy like, okay, you're the one I'm going to avoid. They were the nicest, funniest people I've ever worked with as far as one group of people, not one jerk. People would come up to me like in the first few days of shooting. Out of the blue, they'd walk over, I'm so glad you're on this set. Right on. I'm like, wow, thanks. Which is a big shot in the arm when a show's in season 2, where they're all the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah.
They got the thing, they got the patois.
Their clicks,
and I'm the outsider. And when they're like saying basically, come on in, and after every take, someone makes a joke. Like, you have to stop laughing, reset, get back to work. Ron Perlman's always funny. Katie's wonderful. Charlie's great. And it was just a great 6 months of work where on the last day when I wrapped and drove home, I was really sad I was like, wow, I wish I was coming back to this show next April. Like, I know all you guys are. Because you knew the show's going to do magnificently well. And I wasn't jealous, but I really envied and respected what they were about to take off and do, which they just finished now.
Yeah.
And I really wished I could have been more a part of it. I must admit, I drove home with a lump in my throat.
Yeah. Well, that you were, how to put it, you were apart from it, but you were, like, earlier we were talking about how that poetry, like, instead of saying I miss you, you're apart from me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you were a part of it in the legacy, you know what I mean? So you can still say.
And that was my favorite season by far.
Oh, cool. I've never watched another season of it, and it's all available on Netflix and all of that. And it's not, I'm mad at you because you killed me.
Yeah.
I kind of miss all those people, and I don't want to look at it because I can't watch the show the way you would, in that I'll see it differently because I know them differently.
Yeah. You're like, you're not a badass biker.
I know them from lunch and how funny everyone was and just how go along everyone was. And it was a good time.
That's awesome. To touch back about the doing the voiceovers for Infinity, that it very much, getting from you, it's very admirable how you stand behind such a great product. Much like you keep going back to do Infinity because you believe in it, and you.
Well, they keep coming back to me. You know what I mean? I'm the thing that can be dropped every season.
Yeah, but how you drive one, and you're such a big proponent of it. Much like Haagen-Dazs, how you'd rather work for a company that produces a
quality product.
A quality product.
Yeah, that way, because I do get letters like, what a sellout. Like, well, it's a smart and safe car that really rocks science. And they really are a pretty scientific company. Yeah. I mean, they're pretty astonishing when you drill down. But mainly, I am a worker bee. That, when we talked about Haagen-Dazs, I come from the minimum wage working world of swollen feet and a sore back. And I came out of high school, a very good school, private school, wear the crazy uniform and all that. I barely wriggled out, by passing. I mean, history was taught by board coaches, so I never got it. Science and math was like alien hieroglyphics to me. I just didn't dig it. There's no pulse. And I know I'm not putting it down. I'm saying it wasn't for me. English, you can only take one English class a year, which I got like over 100 because I got all the extra credit points. Because it was like reading Steinbeck. No problem. I'll talk about John Steinbeck all day. But when they go like geometry, I'm like, oh no, this is no fun. So I got out of school with the only thing I really got from school was after school, I had jobs. I always liked having my own money, my own jobs, and keys to a store in my pocket, and knowing how to rock a cash register and do inventory. I loved all that stuff. I loved retail. And so when I left high school, I graduated. I'm like, okay, well, here's what do? I guess I go get a full-time 40-hour a week, one of them that I had from fourth grade on. And you do like 50, 60 hours a week in a place like that. And you're like, wow, this is, I'm making a living.
Yeah.
Got a little stereo, used car, an apartment you can touch both walls. And I'm making it. I'm pulling my weight in the world. And that has always been my virtue. And I came out here many, many years, like 33 years ago, and moved in right up the street from here. Slept on an office floor. The building is gone now. It's a new building in its place. And so for me, pulling my weight in the world, employment has always been the thing for me. So I've never considered myself an artist. Like, oh, you're an artist. I'm like, oh, I'm not an artist. I'm a hack. Like, oh, but I read your things in the LA Weekly. You're a great writer. Oh, no. I just know how to write like a writer enough. Fooled your ass. But, I've been in a bunch of movies. Yeah. So you're an actor. Yeah. I watch people act. I'm like, okay, I got it. Hit the tape, hit the line, and don't break the other actor, or the prop.
Yeah.
And you might get a sandwich out of this. And that's kind of what I do. For me, it's a job. And I'm not saying it's all dull utilitarian, like just a job to me. I put myself into it. I put everything into it. Yet I don't think I'm anything except a lucky bastard. And for me, it's just a job. And I have, I think, a very clear understanding. I have an audience who I serve because they have allowed me to do everything I do. And so without them, I'm the tree that falls in the forest unwitnessed. And I really need a witness. I really want you to come to my show. I want you to listen to my radio show. I want you to read the damn book. So without you, I got really nothing that's a way I can actualize myself. But for me, I'm just a worker bee. So it's just one job after another. And I just like to work. Where if you paid me $1 million or $1.50, I would still show up like I do for I'm overworked. I sign up for too much. It takes me 7 days a week to kind of nail it, keep it all from spinning wildly out of control. But that's just kind of what I like to do. And so it has helped me kind of stay humble and kind of keep my jaw kind of grimly set in that I have a minimum wage mind.
Yeah.
And that has helped me because it kind of clears the BS. Because people will come up.
Keeps you grounded.
Yes. And I think that is really important, especially when you live in oftentimes a very unreal circumstance. Because I get pleasured or attempts are made, like doors open for me. Henry, come and see this before it opens, or here, have one of these. Like, well, really? Take two. Okay.
Yeah.
Where they just like, take one. Like, well, I used to buy those. Like, yeah, but now we sponsor you, so take a caseload of them. Well, how about just one?
Yeah.
And I just try and not trip on any of that and try not to, like, kind of lose the plot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And quite often when I'm offered things all the time, I mainly politely decline. Even if it's something I use, I'll just go to the store and get it.
Yeah.
Or wait in line with my ticket that I bought and just go,
Because you're a normal person.
I'm a nut. Yeah, I'm crazy, but I don't want to. I just don't want to have it too much where you just kind of lose it.
Yeah.
I just want to one of the only things I like about myself is the fact that I will work my ass off.
Yeah.
I never want to lose that. I never want to get soft like that.
And that's very admirable.
That's important. You don't want to feel like you're just coasting or like resting on your laurels.
Yeah, and some of my peers, some people, I won't name them, like when you go out and you dig up your old catalog and you go out there and you slouch through things and remember this one. It says to me, I'm afraid of failure.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of jumping into the deep part of the pool that's icy cold and screwing and blowing it. I have, in my life, sought out opportunities to fail on a grand scale. We're like, I can't act, so I'll go on that audition. What the hell am I thinking? Yeah. And you walk in there just completely nervous.
Yeah.
But man, are you alive? And I go for that stuff all the time. And it's not a Bhutan march.
Yeah.
You're not risking death. You're risking a little humiliation when you walk out like, wow, that sucked. And all the real actors in the hallway waiting to audition smirk as you walk by because they heard you're like, woo, I'm going to be better than that. But, they can all just bite you.
Yeah.
And by the time you get back to the parking garage, you're just laughing. I mean, what the hell? It's a crazy business. But I try to keep my blood thin and to go walking into those things that I'm not exactly completely prepared for and give it a shot.
Yeah.
Because what the hell?
It's definitely, it's like it's very motivational, looking, hearing that and just looking at, your Wikipedia page or whatever, because you're not afraid of failure and you're reinventing yourself with everything from Black Flag to, acting to, animal shows, and traveling around and learning and all that, to voiceover, to voicing cartoons and superheroes, and it's always, it's just it's cool to see that progression.
It's eclectic.
Yeah,
and it keeps you having to be kind of a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
You do a little of this, a little of that, and I just kind of throw it all into the one big stew pot of showbiz.
Yeah.
Like, MC this, front that, little thing over here, a little over there. To me, it's just all fun.
Yeah.
And if you can tell the truth with it, like if you find a character that you're going to do some acting, well, like the Nazi guy. I'm not a Nazi, but I could understand his truth. So you just find the real part of it. You go, oh, yeah, I see why I disagree with him, but I see where he's coming from. And today I'm going to be that guy for 14 hours. Yeah. It's fascinating. And, this year I spent 5.5 months shooting that show for History Channel 2, 10 Things You Don't Know About, where I'm interviewing Harvard professors, historians. I'm clinging to like a kitten on the clothesline. Like, don't screw up this interview, because I'm talking to these people who are so expert, and I'm such a hickoid in comparison. To have them not storm away from the interview with them like cursing, I find it a minor miracle. Yesterday I interviewed Lemmy.
Oh, wow.
Who's a longtime pal of mine. And he's a guy with a very low threshold for BS. He's a very honest guy. He's a very likable person. He's really funny. He's actually really friendly, super generous, very, very intelligent, big book guy, real reader, history especially. And he's like quite intelligent, yet he does not suffer fools. And I had to interview him on camera. And I prepared these questions, re-prepared them, over-prepared them. And I made it very brief. I've interviewed him before. And we came to the end of it. I mean, he doesn't like to stick around. He likes to just be done and get on to the next thing. And afterwards, he said, "Thank you. Those were really good questions." I said, "Whew." I said, "Man, I was really sweating that." And because he's a fascinating guy. Yeah. He has had such an amazing life. He's seen so many gigs. He used to go see the Beatles play the Cavern Club. I mean, he just picks these stories out of the air, like him and Hendrix and him and Hawkwind.
Wow.
And you're like, okay,
Hawkwind.
You're killing me.
Yeah.
Well, he was.
Yeah, of course. So
yeah,
good.
and those are some of my favorite records in the world.
Of course.
And the new Motorhead record's good too. It's really good. It's called "The World Is Yours." It is a good Motorhead record. But I live for these moments of like, okay, don't screw this up. Yeah. And it really makes you have to really stand up and be all, as they say, be all you can be. Yeah. And I love those trials, because when you're really pushed, you find that a lot of times in your life, you're only given it about maybe 65% of the elbow grease, nose to the grindstone. But when you really have to, when there's fear of failure in the mix, like for me, that's every night with a live audience. I'm like, oh no, this is mine to lose. Yeah. This is a 747 to put into the lake. Yeah. So don't do it. And so I go out there with a healthy fear of my audience and an incredible fear of failure. And I think it makes me do better than not do better. Yeah, pretty often.
It almost, being afraid, and it heightens your ability almost to make you do your best work almost.
Yep. It's a crocodile. Don't turn your back on it. Yeah. That's when you lose your leg.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, as we wrap up, Henry, we want to thank you for doing the show.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Did you get to all the points that you wanted?
Yeah, yeah. These are, most of these are, generally we don't get through all of these anyways. They're bullet points to get to, wonderful conversation like this.
So sometimes it pays to be, breviloquent.
So we want to thank you for joining us. And this is the part of the episode where we sell yourself. We got, we have your 10 things you didn't know about on H2. What nights does that air?
Saturdays, I think 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Okay. And I don't know about the rest of America, but I think you can just go to their website and find out.
Then you can Henry Rollins on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Anything else you got coming up, or you're excited about in the future? You want to plug, promote, whatever? Anything you got?
I have a number of shows in the Midwest in October and November, and I'd like to plug something I just did.
Sure,
so it's in our past.
Absolutely.
I just interviewed Nadia and Masha of the band Pussy Riot.
Oh wow,
the two girls who were incarcerated.
Yeah,
and I just wanted to say they are two people I wanted to meet as soon as I read about them. I said, damn do I want to shake those hands and just like meet them and converse with them. And I got a chance to about 3 weeks ago, and it was such a rewarding experience. They were so charismatic, so right on, like very right on individuals. And it was a great afternoon, and that happened. And it was one of those things. It was like years in the making. Like as soon as I read about them, like everyone did all over the world, like, wow, you two are standout. And so are their whole gang.
Yeah.
But those two are the ones who had to do the time. And I got to meet them, and they were, incredibly humble and just really wonderful. And that was a really good experience. I'm still kind of, and they're a fraction of my age.
Yeah.
They're like, this like very young people, yet they're so strong.
Yeah.
And they're going up against Vladimir Putin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where in America, you can kind of say what you want. You can take your clothes off and insult anybody, and you can get away with it. The First Amendment is a pretty damn wide net.
Yeah.
In Russia, there's really, you're basically a flying wallenda. There is no net, and
Zero
you're on
net.
the high wire. And for doing something I don't necessarily agree with, like going into the church and doing their thing, I couldn't be bothered to disrupt a church.
Yeah.
But to do 21 months for that in this ridiculous trial, and to walk out of it completely with complete poise and like, okay, you lit the wrong fuse, Vladimir. Now we're going worldwide. And these two girls are literally taking these laps around the world, hanging out with Noam Chomsky, speaking at Harvard, speaking in front of the Senate. I mean, they are blowing my mind.
Yeah.
And
The balls they have is amazing.
yeah, and in what you just said, perhaps could be one of the most pithy things that we can talk about in our brief time together. The balls. We must, hopefully evolved males, in at least this country or at least the world, we have to get past the idea of a brave woman having
Very
balls.
true.
And I'm not being PC or trying to nitpick at your ass. I'm just saying these are just brave people.
Yeah.
And then you realize when you really pull your head out and look around, women have been brave, had to be braver than men, tougher than men, since the first woman, came about. They were like, oh, really? Is this good? I have to suffer through life with these guys?
Yeah.
And they've had to have the proverbial balls more than any man ever had to, really. More than most.
Yeah.
And when you see these two girls who are very slight humans, they're very, just small. They're not overbearing, and they're polite. They're funny people. And just really eloquent and just very cool. You realize what can be done if you have courage.
Yes.
And if you are fighting out of a corner or your corner's righteous, you can be like 98 pounds, 110 pounds, dripping wet, and you are to be feared.
Yeah.
I mean, those two girls, they're not physically intimidating, but they kicked Vladimir Putin's ass. I mean, you should see footage of him talking about them. His voice goes up in pitch. They freaked him out. He can't even say their name. Like he gets all cattywampus, as they say in Vermont. And it's just these two girls with their balaclavas, and they rock the world.
Yeah.
And there's a real lesson to be learned there. And also, when I interviewed them, I said, like, what kind of music are you into? Because I knew what they'd say. They said punk rock.
Yeah.
This is in front of a live audience. I said, folks, did you hear that? Joe Strummer was not wrong. This is the music you want to pay attention to.
Yeah, they were on the Colbert Report, and they were, not only are they super intelligent, but they're very funny.
Yeah, they're hilarious.
No,
they were killing the audience. They're just really
Is there
great.
is there anywhere that people can hear that interview?
I don't know. It was live at Riot Fest. And it was me and a panel and the two girls and hundreds of people in a raining field, and no one left. It's like Chicago. It's raining. It's miserable weather.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's just like standing there like, we are here. So cool.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
And they are like two of my favorite people in the entire world. I'm just knocked out that I got to meet them. I'm in awe. So
That's awesome. That's really cool. I'm gonna hopefully somebody record it.
I'm
and
sure
it's on there.
I'm
'cause
sure it's out there
I'd love to
somewhere.
hear that. It's wonderful. Well, once again, Henry, thank you for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
We want to thank our listeners, as usual, for listening in and tuning in and downloading and sharing with your friends, and continue to keep doing that and giving us good ratings and comments on iTunes. And you can follow the podcast on Twitter at TWL Podcast. You can send us an email at TWL. Today We Learned podcast at
scratch that
gmail.com.
TWL.
Today We Learned podcast at gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook, Today We Learned with Razzle and Dan. You can send me, you can find me on Twitter at my name is Razzle and the number 2.
And I'm at Osteoferocious. And guys, thank you a lot. We appreciate it.
That's smart.
So, that's what happens when your real name is taken. Just have to come up with an alternative.
Thanks again, guys. And as usual,
Gentacular. It's what's for breakfast. Literally, just look it up.
thanks, guys. Bye.
Now leaving Nerdist.com.